What's going on, guys? So, COVID is really messing a lot of things up, and while I'm here in Utah filming for my other channel, Dāv Kaufman's Reptile Adventures, I wanted to do an arachnid episode for all you arachnid lovers out there. And so I wanted to go to Joey Mugleston's Great Basin Serpentarium. He works with some of the most amazing arachnids you guys have ever seen, but because of COVID, I couldn't make it up there. So instead of me going to Joey's place, we're gonna usurp the studio here at Clint's Reptiles, and Joey has brought along a couple of his tarantulas to show off. So in this video, we're just gonna basically do a little show and tell of some of these amazing arachnids. And then I promise you guys that after COVID is over, maybe next year, I'm going to do a follow-up video at Great Basin Serpentarium with Joey and show how he cares and keeps for all of his tarantulas. But for right now, Joey has brought some of the most amazing tarantulas you guys have ever seen. So this is Joey Mugleston from Great Basin Serpentarium. Whoa! So here's tarantula number one. What have we got here?
So this is a rear-horned baboon. So named because if you look here, you see a little horn on top, facing backwards. So this is one of your African baboon spiders. Baboon spider is it's a common name for any large hairy spider, any theraphosid coming from Africa. So these guys are they're found in drier habitats. Little burrowers, they web quite a bit. These aren't the type of tarantula that you typically handle. As you can see, he's getting a little bit defensive with the cup sitting above him. Oh, you don't need to attack the cup.
He hates that cup.
Yeah, but this one of the, so when you hear the term old world spider, they're talking about, whoop, there we go, your African or Asian spiders, Indian spiders. So this one, your old world tarantulas, not great for handling, but a beautiful display specimen.
Absolutely.
Actually, if you listen, I don't know if you can pick it up on the camera, they stridulate, they rub the bristles together and make almost a hissing noise.
Look at the green color under his legs there. That is amazing. Now, why wouldn't he have that more visible?
So that's just due to the structure of the bristles down there. So that's just light reflecting. They don't use it for display or anything. It's just more the nature of the bristles reflecting that green light.
Gotcha.
So now this one's a big adult female. The horned baboons, the horns can be straight up, they can be pointing forward. There's a new species found that has a massive horn sticking backwards. But yeah, a little bit variation there based on the species.
Those are some very formidable looking things. Wow, just an amazing tarantula.
Care is incredibly simple. They don't need fancy lights or anything like that with the reptiles. They just need to be kept at a suitable temperature. You need a deeper substrate for them to burrow in. And so our enclosures consist of about 3 to 4 inches of substrate, a little flower pot that serves as kind of the start to their burrow, and they'll burrow and web up the place kind of to their liking. And so a few inches of substrate, we use a small water dish that they can have access to water at all times. And then just about once every 7 to 10 days, we'll open up the cage, make sure there's fresh water available, and throw in a little roach or cricket for them. Okay, so this is the Venezuelan sun tiger, or Salmopoeus irminia. So this one has 2 different speeds. It's, I barely move or I'm lightning fast.
Yep.
And so we're trying to avoid the latter of those 2 speeds.
The epithesoma on this tarantula is just exquisite. I mean, that is just an unbelievably beautiful pattern.
So you can see the sun tiger, the name comes from little tiger bands on the rump there, on the epithesoma. So this is one of those species where they're beautiful to look at, but as you can see from the little threatening posture there, it's not really one to be pet or held.
Right.
At least I would strongly recommend against it. So they're a New World spider, but unlike most New World spiders, they don't have those urticating hairs, those itching hairs. And so they're not going to kick hairs at you like the red legs and stuff will. But as you can see, if it feels threatened, it has other ways of dealing with that. But this is a nearly full-grown female. The males are a little bit lighter in color. But they're a semi-arboreal tropical species, so if you just have a few inches of substrate and some hollow tube for them to kind of hang out in, they will web up the place and make a little retreat in there. And often if you spook them, they run right to the retreat. If there's nowhere else to go, they'll dart out of the cage. So they're kind of a faster one, not the best if you're a beginner spider keeper. I guess not the best if you're worried about spiders moving too fast.
Right.
But if you're, as you can see, she's not really being too crazy right now. Definitely not happy with that, not wanting to be poked out with that pin.
So this being a New World tarantula, how significant is the venom?
So it's not considered medically significant. It's not going to cause too much damage. It'll sting. I mean, it's not going to be the most comfortable thing you've ever felt, but in a lot of these spiders, the venom is not much to worry about. I mean, you're not an insect. It's not going to have much of an effect on most people. It's going to hurt. It's more the psychological aspect of a 5-inch spider just bit into my thumb.
Absolutely.
And then the back end of their chelicerae, their fangs are serrated, and so when they bite, a lot of times they'll move those chelicerae back and forth, and so the mechanical damage, the psychological damage is probably more of a concern than the venom itself.
Absolutely.
But still, doesn't feel good, so I'd recommend against it. So this one is the Mexican red-legged tarantula, or Brachypelma amelia. This one's an amazing pet species because they get fairly large. As you can see, this female's just about full grown. They have amazing colors on them, and they have a fairly docile temperament. So these are one of those species that when someone asks what's a good starting tarantula, this is one of the ones I recommend.
So you would recommend this one over like a red knee?
They're about equivalent. So it's kind of pick the colors you like.
They're sure.
Very similar species. I've noticed in personal experience with this species, they tend to kick those urticating hairs. Mm-hmm. They tend to be less apt to kick those at you. And so I prefer this one a bit more. I like the colors a bit more, but that seems to be more of a matter of personal preference. Hair's almost identical on the two. Adult size, they're very similar species. So this species you will only find in Mexico. You don't find them any country south of that. So so the Mexican red knee, the Mexican fire leg, red leg, Mexican pink. There's a number of species that are endemic to just to Mexico. The name it tells you the range there. But there's a bunch of different species. Depends on kind of which mountain range you're on or which river system you're nearest to, which species you're going to find.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I have a personal preference for the Mexican tarantulas, to be honest.
They're awesome pets. They're all CITES protected, and so most of the ones, or if you find them in captivity, they're going to be captive bred as well, so they're not being plucked from the field and shipped to you. This one, though, the more general common name is Colombian lesser black. Fun thing with terms there, bird eater is just the general term for any South or Central American spider that gets big. So any Theraphosid, kind of like baboon spider in Africa, whistling spiders in Australia, they're bird eaters in South America.
Right.
Yeah, so you'll hear them called bird eaters, but it does get quite large. I mean, you get females up to 8 inches or so. They're not as heavy bodied as like your Goliath bird eaters. They won't weigh as much as a Goliath bird eater, but they can have a pretty big leg span.
Look at those pink tiger stripes. That is just amazing. In this species, do the males color up more than the females?
Yeah. So females, as they get older, they'll keep that kind of pink starburst pattern and the orange bristles on the back. But the pink on the legs you typically won't see on larger females, and older females will be more and more just that black color with a reduced amount of pink. Males, when they mature, will have even brighter pink legs, bright pink prosoma, the carapace there.
So this individual here is not quite yet full grown. This will get a little bit bigger than this.
And this one's more notorious for kicking hairs. You see the opithosoma already up in the air, ready to go.
Right. And now these aren't very aggressive, are they?
Not too much, no. I mean, they're not going to come after anything. You see I put my hand pretty close to
Right.
it. I mean, they're not one you'd want to handle. Not only do they kick those hairs, but they won't hesitate to strike at you if you start harassing them too much.
Right. But just, putting my hand there to give you some scale of how just enormous this is, and this guy isn't even full grown yet. Wow, that is beautiful. I think that with snakes, people have this kind of visceral, guttural reaction to them, and because of that, they never take a step back and say, well, wait a minute now, this is a really beautiful animal, and I think it's the same thing with spiders. But I think that if more people just took a step back and appreciated how beautiful these are, maybe some of that fear would dissipate.
Let's do a little furry nice one, because now that Chile has closed off exports, this is now becoming the go-to pet spider.
So amongst arachnid keepers, this is a pretty recognizable tarantula.
Oh yeah. This is kind of the one that when people get kind of proud of how long they've been in the hobby, they don't keep them anymore because it's too common for them. This is the common name is hunter and curly-haired tarantula, although this one and most of the ones you'll find nowadays floating around the hobby come from Nicaragua. And you can see where they get the name curly hair from pretty easily.
Absolutely.
They are incredibly easy to keep, so they're very forgiving of your common first-time keeper mistakes.
Sure.
And so you let it get a little bit too dry, they're okay. You accidentally saturate the soil a bit much, they're fine. They can handle those extremes. They're fairly hardy. They aren't very defensive, and so we can move around it. It's not going to dart and jump off the table. So very hardy, very forgiving of first-time keeper mistakes. And so if you are trying to get into the hobby and see what's an easy one to start with, this is one of the go-to species. And there's other species that are equally easy to care for, but not as easy to acquire. These are so not only commonly brought in from wild-caught imports, but they are captive bred in huge numbers. And so buying a baby is just a few dollars, and you end up with a very long-lived, rewarding pet. So this species, we have some in our collection that are 10, 15 years old. There are other closely related species that can break into the 20s.
And that's that's just for females,
For
right?
just the females,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah. Males mature, depending on your feeding schedule, temperatures that you keep them at, males will mature in a few years, and then once they mature, they have a season to go, and then they're pretty much done with what they need to do and die shortly thereafter.
It's like a fuzzy wuzzy was a spider, wasn't it?
There you go.
Right?
Yeah, look, basically a spider stuck its leg into a light socket.
Yeah, that's exactly it. All right, so it looks like we have one more here.
All right, so this one is a really popular spider. This is Monocentropus buffori, and this one not only is it popular because of its color, you get that kind of fawn color on the body and those bright blue legs if the light's hitting it right. I'm not sure.
Sure
you see
is.
it? Good. So you have those blue legs. This is an adult female. Males actually have fairly similar color, a little more blue on the femora than what this one has. But this one's well known because it's one of the few species that you can keep communally.
Ah.
And so we have multiple generations living in the same cage, so we'll let the exec hatch out, pull a few of the babies out, leave some in the cage, and they'll grow up and all live together. We have video of the moms feeding and the babies coming, grabbing chunks of food from the mom. And so they're not just tolerant of each other. You can keep these in large groups and they will do fairly well. So this one's considered a baboon spider as well, but unlike the last one we had out, you notice this one's not rearing up all that much. They're not as defensive, they're not as skittish as that other one.
Right.
That's been my experience with this species. Of all the ones we've kept, they will sometimes do a threat pose, but for the most part, they're a pretty calm spider. I wouldn't recommend handling it, of course, but as for baboon spiders, this one's a pretty nice one to work with.
And so talk a little bit about baboon spiders for those who might not, know what a baboon spider is, and that whole family of baboon spiders.
All right, so it's part of the tarantula. Tarantulas, all tarantulas belong to the family Theraphosidae, and they all have different kind of regional specific names. And so bird eater comes from an old plate that was drawn showing a tarantula eating a bird, and kind of gave the common name for any big furry spider found in the New World was given the name bird eater.
Right.
Goliath bird eater, since the whole Goliath thing, it's the biggest of the bird eaters.
Sure.
But you have some bird eaters like the red and white bird eater that are maybe 4 or 5 inches as adults. It's just a common name given to any theraphosid in Central South America. You go over to Africa and you find Africa throughout the Middle East, you'll find any theraphosid out there, and they just get the common name baboon. And so you'll hear king baboon is the biggest of the baboons. There's horned baboons, starburst baboons, Socotra Island blue baboons. So it's just a common name. You go out to Australia, the common name for tarantula, all still the same family Theraphosidae. They just call them whistling spiders.
Right.
And then you have bird spiders and tiger spiders, and it's all just their name for tarantulas. There's a wolf spider, pretty sure it's wolf spider, now watch me say it wrong. There's a spider in Italy that is in the genus Tarantula. And these big hairy spiders found from the New World were given the name tarantula because of their similarity in appearance. And so the common name tarantula is thought to stem from that. And you've probably heard of it with tarantisms or the old folk song, the Tarantella. So
Yeah.
all from the same root word.
So the name tarantula is actually kind of a misnomer, isn't it?
A bit.
So Joey, thank you so much for making the trek down here and bringing these tarantulas down here to show us. Soon as this whole craziness is over, I'm coming back and we're going to see your facility. How many different species of spiders do you work with?
I think we're approaching 200 different species.
200 different species, so that could be a two-part video to see your facility.
It takes a while to go through.
Right, but under these circumstances, I sincerely appreciate you coming down and showing us these amazing animals. I'm going to put all of Joey's links in the description below, so go and check them out. And until the next animal adventure, love the planet and rattle on.